Hello and welcome to another Things video. Not running, not motorcycling, not Goulburn or Tasmania or something like that, just another Things, other things. And in this video, as you can see by the title, I'm going to talk about the subject of bullying. So the usual invitation is, if you don't want to hear me talking about bullying, just turn down the volume and enjoy the scenery, enjoy the pictures. The pictures are there for illustration, and they're all pictures that I have taken, so I don't think I've infringed anyone's copyright, and they're just there, as I said, for illustration. A little while ago I made a video about asking the question whether social media was the problem, and I was referring to deplorable behaviour by some young men at a private school in Melbourne, among other things. I don't want to revisit that video, but I came to the conclusion that the platforms themselves weren't necessarily the problem. I felt that the people who are inclined to do the awful things that do happen in social media, such as trolling and cyberbullying and cyber stalking and so on, they'd happen anyway. People would do those kind of things because that's their general inclination. The platforms have only given them a bigger, a wider audience to do them to. And my evidence for that is to say that bullying has been around, I don't know, probably since people in one cave realised that there was something different about the people in the cave across from them, and that they could exploit that weakness. So I wanted to talk about the subject of bullying. First of all, what I wanted to do was make a couple of clarifications. Bullying is distinct from that good-natured bantering, ribbing, taking the proverbial, having a laugh, whatever you want to call it, that goes on between consenting people. Everybody throws barbs at each other and jokes with each other about a particular thing. Sometimes it's the performance of your team, the sporting team you support, or something like that, and everybody knows what it's about. And generally that is just good-natured bantering, and people are happy to be involved in that, and they're consenting to be involved in it. Sometimes somebody says the wrong thing and it all goes too far, and somebody says something dumb and they regret it, and the only way out of that is to apologise and move on, and perhaps not banter for a little while. So that's the first point I want to make, the first distinction and clarification I want to make. And the second clarification I want to make is that anybody who is being bullied, you should not at any stage in your life think it is my fault. If only I weren't, or if only I did, or if only I looked, or if only I something or other, then people wouldn't bully me. You are whoever you are entitled to be whoever you are and present yourself to the world in any way that you wish, and it is not your fault if somebody decides to pick on you because of some aspect of your life, which could be your religion, your skin colour, your race, your gender, if we still use that word, or any other feature of your personality or life. The only two provisions I might put on saying you can be whoever you want, however you want, whenever you want, is that being whoever you are must be something that doesn't involve harm or violence or intimidation of anybody else. And secondly, that you freely choose to do it and you don't go about recruiting other people for it. I'm happy for you to be whoever you want, and if I want to join you, for example, in whatever it is that you are, then it'll be my decision, and I don't want you to come and try and recruit me to it. That's perhaps rather crudely putting it. So let's be clear about what bullying is for a start. It is intentional, it's systematic, it's purposeful, it is designed to humiliate, to demean, to diminish, to marginalise, to make people feel worthless, to discriminate against people based on nothing other than somebody has seen a particular feature, vulnerability, weakness, difference, whatever, about another person and decided that they are able to exploit that in some way to exert their power or their influence over the person they are bullying. And as I said at the beginning, the person being bullied, it is never your fault. You can be however you want to be. You can have whatever hair colour you want, you can wear whatever clothes you want, you can think whatever you want, and so on. It is not somebody else's right to dictate to you or to pick on you simply because of what you think or believe, or the way you dress, or the way you act, or the way you speak, or anything like that. So it is an intentional thing. And I think in this day and age we cannot excuse it by saying it's just boys being boys or girls being girls, or people just having a laugh, or we're just mucking around, we didn't mean any harm, we were just having fun, because we know that it is unpleasant, we know that it is hurtful, we know that it can have very serious consequences for the people that are being bullied, in that they withdraw from life and they feel unsafe, and sometimes they take their own lives as the only way to escape it. So none of those excuses or justifications work. So having identified, I guess, what it is, what sort of trying to define it, it can take many forms, but one of the, some of the forms that it takes are physical abuse. Somebody hits you, punches you, or kicks you, or pinches you, or whatever it is every time they go past you. Somebody says things about you to another person within earshot of you so that you can hear them, or they say them directly to you as you go past. They make gestures that are offensive to you. For example, you may be walking down a corridor at school, for example, and suddenly the person that bullies you or their friends stand against the other wall, or hold their nose as you go past to indicate that they don't want to be near you. It's not making space, but they're making some statement about your personal hygiene or something like that, something ridiculous like that. It can be, of course, in the form of words, and we know that words can be used to wound and harm people. Words can be used to say all kinds of wonderful things and to stir us into great deeds and motivate us to be really wonderful people, but they can also be awful things that are used to humiliate people, that are used to demean people, that are used to make people feel worthless. And rarely are those words used by accident or by mistake. We now know that it's inappropriate to use certain types of language that we once thought was acceptable, but if the words that you choose to use about another person are meant to be derogatory or hurtful, then that constitutes a form of bullying. So, I think I think we all know what it is when we see it, and we know the forms that it takes. I guess one of the really deep questions to ask is, well, why do people do it? And as I said, bullying's probably been around since human beings, or our ancestors, however far back you want to go, had a language or a thought about the people in the next cave, or the people in the next village, or even the people in the next family, and saw that there was someone in that family that looked different to them, that was a bit weaker than them, or appeared to be a bit vulnerable in some way or other, and they saw this weakness and they thought they'd exploit it in some way. So I suppose the simplest answer to bullying is people do it because they can. But I think the answer is much more complex. And I think part of the answer is that the person doing the bullying, despite their bravado about being strong and tough and powerful and threatening other people and intimidating people weaker than themselves, I think sometimes those people have insecurities of their own, which doesn't excuse their bullying. I just think that's a factor, that they are insecure about their own place in the world, and despite their bravado, they aren't quite as tough or powerful or as strong as they think they are. And they use this bullying as a way of covering up their own insecurities and weaknesses. Now you might then wonder, well, okay, that explains why Buffhead at school bullies somebody else. And Buffhead can be, and I'm going to use the terms that I understand, male or female. If there are other terms that make sense to you, then by all means, but I understand the words male and female. Bullies can be males, they can be men, they can be women, they can be boys, they can be girls. That possibly explains why one person chooses to bully another. It doesn't justify it, it just possibly explains it. But then there's the question of, well, why do other people join in? And you often see that one person is being bullied not by just another person, but by a group of people. And I suspect that happens for a number of reasons too. Number one, of course, is again because they can. Somebody sees a person being bullied and thinks, well, they're doing it, so I can do it too. Sometimes they think, well, that looks like fun. It looks like fun to see someone crying or cowed or frightened or intimidated or afraid to do something that they were once confident about doing. So if indulge in this bullying, then it gives me a few moments of pleasure and a few moments of fun. There's that question of popularity, of course. If the person doing the bullying is or thinks they're a really popular person at school or at the workplace or wherever it happens, because let's be clear, bullying happens everywhere. It's not just at school. It is at school, but it's not just at school. It's in the workplace. It's in social settings that people go to, like football, sporting teams and things like that as well. Other sorts of social groups that people might belong to. So there's the question, if somebody's popular and I do what they do, then by extension I'll be popular, or at least I'll be in with the popular crowd. And then there's that other sense of protection that comes with the bullying. And by that I mean the person being bullied is being bullied because they look a bit strange, they act a bit weird, they dress differently, they speak differently, they believe in different things, they like books and music and they don't like sport, for example. Those are just some of the reasons. And someone who is joining in the bullying has a bit of a leaning into those directions and thinks, well, if I join in the bullying here, that means they won't bully me. So if I pick on that other person because of their perceived vulnerabilities or weaknesses, then I won't get picked on because of my perceived or potentially perceived weaknesses or vulnerabilities. Now, of course, that'll only last for a certain period of time before the joy and the pleasure of reducing first person to tears and first person to not wanting to go to work or go to school or go wherever it is that they normally go about their business, before the joy and fun of that ceases to be joyful and fun for the bullies, and then they look for another target. So the next question, I guess, is, well, what can be done about it? As I said, bullying's always been with us. I guess it always will be with us, sadly. I guess it's an aspect of human nature. In an ideal world, we'd like to say we would rid the world of bullying at some stage, but sadly, I don't think that's going to be the case. But we can do things about it. The first thing we can do is, if you are the person who is being bullied, you must report it to somebody. If it's happening at your school, to you, if you're a student at school, or even if you're a teacher at school and someone else is bullying you, you must report it. The school cannot act on what it doesn't know about. And no matter how good the staff at the school or how many teachers there are, they simply can't be everywhere all the time. And if you are being bullied by somebody, report it to somebody. Now, you can report it to your own teacher. You can report it to another teacher if you're a child. If you're an adult in the workplace and you're being bullied at school, then you report it to a superior. If the superior is the person bullying, then you report it to someone else, at least in the school, and you document your concerns so that it's on the record that you have done so. If it's in the workplace, it's the same thing. You need to report what is happening to you to someone else. If the person doing it to you is your superior, then you have to find another person in the workplace that you can report this matter to. And that other person in the workplace may be the person who works in the next cubicle to you or something like that. And yes, I'm aware that if you report it, there's a possibility that you might lose your job. It's no good pretending that won't happen. There is that possibility. But you still must report it, because the workplace obviously can't investigate what it doesn't know about. You cannot assume that people just know these things. So you need to report it, and you need to document what is happening to you. By contemporaneous notes, in other words, writing some notes about what has happened to you as soon as it has happened to you, and as often, as frequently as it happens to you, who said what and when they said it and where you were at the time and so on. Now, if you are another person in the workplace and you become aware of bullying as a problem, then you can't simply say, well, it's not my problem. It's not happening to me, so it's not my problem, so I don't want to get involved. You can't simply say, well, if I report this, I will be in trouble or I could lose my job, so I'm not going to do that. Because simple matter is saying, well, put yourself in the shoes of the person who's being bullied. What would you want someone to do if it were you that was being bullied? Would you want them to say, I'm just one person, I can't make a difference, or it's not my problem, or I don't want to lose my job, so I'm not going to do anything about it? If you become aware of bullying in your workplace or your school or your social group or wherever, then you have an obligation to report it, because as a very basic human right, everybody has the right to be treated decently. It's the old do unto others and so forth. If you treat other people the way you'd like them to treat you, and I suspect that most of us would like to be treated with decency and consideration. It doesn't mean we have to love everybody, and doesn't mean we even have to like everybody. And let's be honest, there'll be times that you will come across people that don't like you either. That's a fact of life. We don't necessarily like everybody else in the world, but that doesn't mean that we have the right to intimidate them, humiliate them, bully them, marginalise them, diminish them, or any of those sort of words that you want to use to discriminate or to make a person feel worthless. So if you become aware of bullying in your workplace or your school or your social group or something, you kind of have an obligation to yourself and to your colleagues in the workplace to report it. You can't necessarily control what happens after that, but at least you've done what you can, which is to report it. Well, thank you for watching. If you didn't enjoy the commentary, I hope you enjoyed the pictures, and I'll talk to you again when I'm making the next video.